The Forbidden Border. The holographic star map dominated the central chamber of the Galactic Assembly, its countless points of light representing thousands of civilizations spread across known space. Ambassador Kelran Voss stood before it, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the one feature that had troubled him for decades. At the eastern edge of the map, where the spiral arm curved toward unexplored regions, there existed a vast zone of absolute darkness. No trade routes penetrated it. No exploratory missions had returned from it. It was simply labeled in every galactic database with two words that had become synonymous with mystery and dread: human territory. Kelran had served the Archeon Collective for 40 standard years, negotiating treaties and resolving disputes across 100 worlds. He had faced down warlords and reasoned with hive minds. He had walked on planets where the very air was poison and survived encounters that would have broken lesser beings. But this empty space on the map frightened him in ways he could not fully explain. It was not the darkness itself that disturbed him. It was the silence, the absolute, unbroken silence that had persisted for 4 centuries. The assembly chamber buzzed with agitated voices as representatives from 70 species debated the human question once again. High Chancellor Mirax, a towering crystalline being whose facets reflected the light in prismatic patterns, raised one massive arm to call for order. The chamber felt quiet, though the air remained thick with tension and unspoken fears. "We cannot continue to ignore this void in our knowledge." Chancellor Mirax's voice resonated through the space, each word carefully measured. 400 years ago, humanity made first contact with our civilizations. They traded with us, they shared knowledge. Then, without explanation, they withdrew behind their borders and have not emerged since. 17 expeditions have crossed into their territory. 17 expeditions have vanished without a trace. We must know what lies beyond that boundary. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly, though I noticed many representatives shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Fear was a powerful force, even among those who commanded fleets and governed billions. Counselor Thren, a 4-armed diplomat from the Kelthani Union, stood to speak. "Perhaps the humans wish to be left alone. Perhaps we should respect their obvious desire for isolation. Every species has the right to choose solitude if they wish." "Or perhaps they are dead," countered General Vorix, his reptilian features twisting into a scowl. "Perhaps some catastrophe wiped them out centuries ago, and we fear ghosts and empty worlds. We waste resources maintaining a quarantine zone around a graveyard." Kelran listened to the arguments spiral in familiar circles. He had heard these same debates countless times before. The assembly was paralyzed by uncertainty, unable to act, yet unable to simply forget about the humans and move forward. The unknown had become an obsession, a mystery that gnawed at the collective consciousness of galactic civilization. "Someone must go," Kelran heard himself say, his voice cutting through the noise. The chamber fell silent as hundreds of eyes turned toward him. Someone must cross that border and return with answers. "I volunteer for this mission." Chancellor Mirax's crystalline form seemed to pulse with surprise. "Ambassador Voss? You understand the risks. The 17 expeditions that came before you included military vessels, scientific research ships, and heavily armed exploration craft. All vanished. What makes you believe you would fare any better?" Kelran stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. "Because I will go alone in a small diplomatic vessel, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency we know. The previous expeditions either went in force, which could be perceived as threatening, or went silent, trying to spy on the humans. I will approach with complete transparency. I will offer nothing but honest communication.
If the humans still exist, perhaps they will respond to genuine diplomacy rather than threats or deception. The silence stretched for a few heartbeats. Then, Chancellor Mirax spoke, each word heavy with significance. "Very well, Ambassador Voss. You will be given a Class 3 diplomatic vessel equipped with long-range communications and emergency systems. You will have supplies for 1 standard year. If you do not return within that time, we will assume you have met the same fate as those who came before. May the light of 1,000 suns guide your journey." The preparation took 3 weeks. Kelran spent the time studying every fragment of information available about humanity. The records were frustratingly sparse. Humans were bipedal oxygen breathers from a world they called Earth. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only decades before making first contact with the greater galactic community. Early reports described them as curious, cautious, and deeply interested in philosophy and ethics. They asked endless questions about how different species resolved conflicts and governed themselves. What struck Kelran most were the personal accounts from traders who had dealt with humans during those brief years of contact. One merchant wrote that humans seemed burdened by something, as if they carried a great weight they could not share. Another noted that human vessels, though technologically advanced, seemed designed more for defense than exploration or conquest. A third observer mentioned that humans appeared to be searching for something in their conversations, though they never explicitly stated what it was. Then, 403 years ago, all human ships withdrew to their home systems. They sent a single message to every nearby civilization. "Humanity requests isolation. Our borders are clearly marked. Do not attempt to cross them. This is not a threat, but a warning given in friendship. We wish you peace and prosperity, but we can no longer participate in galactic affairs. Please respect our decision." After that, silence, and the disappearances began. Kelran's ship, the Morning Light, was small and elegant, designed for speed and communication rather than combat. Its hull bore the diplomatic seals of the Galactic Assembly in patterns visible across the electromagnetic spectrum. As he piloted away from the central worlds, Kelran recorded messages for his family. His mate, Serene, and their 3 offspring deserved to know why he felt compelled to risk everything for answers that might not exist. The journey to the human border took 18 days. As the Morning Light approached the boundary, Kelran began to notice something strange. The space around him felt wrong in ways his instruments could not quite measure. His sensors functioned perfectly, showing normal stellar phenomena and cosmic radiation. But there was a quality to the emptiness here that made his skin prickle beneath the scales. The warning beacons appeared exactly where the old charts said they would be. Ancient automated stations, still functioning after 400 years, broadcasting the same message in 300 languages. "You are approaching human territory space. Turn back. This is your final warning. We do not wish you harm, but we cannot permit entry. Turn back now." Kelran took a deep breath and transmitted his response on all frequencies. "This is Ambassador Kelran Voss of the Galactic Assembly, traveling alone aboard the diplomatic vessel Morning Light. I come in peace, seeking only communication and understanding. I request permission to enter human space and speak with your representatives. I will comply with any conditions you set. Please respond." For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Kelran was about to repeat his message when every system on his ship suddenly locked. His controls froze. His view screen went dark. Then slowly, a new image appeared.
The truth beyond the silence. The journey to Outpost Serenity took 5 days, and during that entire time, Calren Voss saw nothing that explained the mystery of human isolation. The systems he passed were unremarkable. Stars burned in their predictable patterns. Planets orbited in stable configurations. There were no signs of massive military installations or advanced defensive networks. No fleets patrolled the space. No weapons platforms tracked his passage. It was simply empty, as if humanity had claimed this vast region of space and then chosen to leave it untouched. What disturbed Kelrin most was the absence of colonial development. His sensors detected dozens of worlds capable of supporting life. Planets with breathable atmospheres, abundant water, and rich mineral deposits sat empty and pristine. Any other species would have built cities on those worlds, established mining operations, constructed orbital stations. Growth and expansion were the fundamental drives of every civilization Kelrin had ever encountered. But human space was different. It was preserved, protected, kept in a state of intentional emptiness that violated every principle of galactic civilization. On the 5th day, Outpost Serenity finally appeared on his sensors. Kelrin had expected something impressive, perhaps a massive military installation or a gleaming diplomatic station. What he saw instead made his blood run cold despite the perfectly regulated temperature inside his ship. The outpost was small, barely larger than a cargo depot. It was built in a spiral configuration and orbited a dying red giant star that cast the entire structure in a bloody, ominous light. The station itself seemed to absorb that red glow rather than reflect it, appearing as a dark silhouette against the stellar backdrop. As the morning light drew closer, Calrin's instruments began registering impossible readings. The station generated a gravitational field that did not match its mass. Space itself seemed to bend around it in ways that violated fundamental physics. And there was something else, something his sensors could not quantify. A sensation of wrongness, as if reality itself was uncomfortable in the station's presence. Commander Sarah Chen's voice filled his cabin. "Ambassador Voss, you will dock at Bay 3. Once inside, you will shut down all ship systems except life support. You may bring a personal translator if you wish, though it is unnecessary. You will not bring weapons, recording devices, or communication equipment. When you are ready, the airlock will open. I will be waiting for you." The docking procedure was smooth and efficient. Kelrin followed the instructions, powering down his systems and checking his environmental suit one final time. He carried nothing but himself and the weight of his mission. As the airlock cycled and opened, he stepped into a corridor that seemed to swallow sound itself. His footsteps made barely a whisper against the metal floor. The air felt heavy, though his instruments showed normal pressure in composition. Commander Chen stood waiting, exactly as she had promised. In person, she was taller than Kelrin had expected, nearly matching his own height. Her dark uniform seemed to absorb light just like the station itself. Her blue eyes studied him with an intensity that suggested she could see through scales and flesh to the thoughts beneath. "Ambassador," she said, her voice quiet but clear in the oppressive silence. "Thank you for your compliance. Please follow me. What you are about to learn is classified at the highest level of human government. No non-human has ever received this information. After today, you will understand why we choose isolation. You will understand why we cannot rejoin galactic civilization, and you will face a choice that will burden you for the rest of your life." They walked through corridors that all looked identical, turning at intervals that Kelrin could not track. Finally, they reached a chamber that opened before them like a mouth. The room was circular, matching the spiral architecture of the station. One entire wall was transparent, showing the red giant star and all its dying glory. The rest of the room contained only a simple table and a series of holographic projectors built into the floor. "Please sit," Commander Chen gestured to one of the chairs. Calrin settled himself, his tail curling around the seat space for stability. Chen remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back in a military posture that suggested years of discipline. "Before I show you our history, I need you to understand something fundamental. Humanity did not choose isolation out of arrogance or fear of other species. We chose it out of necessity. We chose it because we discovered something that changed everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. We discovered the truth that every advanced civilization before us either learned too late or chose to ignore." She touched a control panel and the room darkened.
Above the table, a holographic display materialized showing a star map that Kelrin immediately recognized. It was the galaxy, as he knew it, with all the major civilizations marked in their familiar colors and positions. 407 years ago, she continued, humanity achieved faster than light travel. We were young, naive, excited to meet other intelligent species. We sent out exploration vessels and made first contact with 17 different civilizations in the span of 20 years. We thought we had found our place in a grand cosmic community. The holographic display shifted, showing human ships moving through space, making contact with various species. I recognized several of them from historical records. But our sciences noticed something strange, something that none of the established civilizations seemed to acknowledge or perhaps were incapable of seeing. There were patterns in the distribution of intelligent life, gaps in stellar cartography that made no sense, and there were the quiet zones. The display changed again, highlighting several regions of space that appeared empty on the galactic map. Kelrin leaned forward. His interest piqued, despite his growing unease. These zones, she explained, are regions of space that every civilization avoids without consciously realizing they are avoiding them. Your own star charts show them as areas of dangerous stellar phenomena or resource-poor systems not worth exploring, but that is not the truth. Our scientists studied these zones and discovered something that should have been impossible. The holographic display zoomed into one of the quiet zones, revealing what appeared to be normal space with stars and planets. But as the image enhanced, Kelrin saw something that made his scales stand rigid with instinctive horror. Between the stars and the vast emptiness of space, there were shadows, not the absence of light, but actual shadows cast by nothing, stretching across light years like the fingers of some immense hand. We call them the void echoes, she said quietly. They are not alive in any way we understand life. They are not dead in any way we understand death. They exist in the spaces between dimensions, and they hunger for consciousness itself. Every thought, every dream, every moment of self-awareness generates a kind of energy that they consume. They are drawn to intelligence like moths to flame. Kelrin felt his mouths go dry. That is impossible. We would have detected such entities. Our sensors would have found them. Your sensors cannot detect them because they exist partially outside normal time-space. But they are there, Ambassador. They have always been there, waiting in the dark places, and they are patient. They wait for civilizations to reach a certain level of psychic development, a threshold of collective consciousness. Then they move in to feed. The display shifted again, showing historical data that Kelrin recognized with growing horror. It was a timeline of galactic civilizations, showing the rise and sudden, inexplicable collapse of dozens of advanced species throughout history. The Velrothi Empire, she pointed to one entry. At their peak, they controlled 200 star systems. Then, over the course of a single generation, their entire civilization descended into madness. Billions of individuals simultaneously lost their minds, consumed by visions and nightmares. Their worlds became graveyards of the insane. The official galactic record attributes their collapse to a pandemic disease, but there was no disease, Ambassador. There were the void echoes. She showed him case after case, the Chronics Collective, the Cetharian Union, the First Minds Consortium, all of them advanced civilizations that had reached a critical threshold and then collapsed into chaos and extinction, all of them feeding events for the void echoes. When humanity discovered this truth, we faced a terrible decision. We could warn the other civilizations, but we had no proof that anyone would accept. We had no way to fight these entities. All we could do was understand the pattern and try to avoid the same fate. Chen's expression became grave, and for the first time I saw genuine pain in those blue eyes. We discovered that the void echoes are drawn to large concentrations of interconnected consciousness. The more civilizations interact, the more they trade thoughts and ideas and culture, the brighter they shine in the dimensions where these entities hunt. The entire galactic community, with its networks of communication and shared knowledge, is becoming a beacon that will eventually draw the void echoes in overwhelming numbers. Kelrin felt his world tilting. You were saying that galactic civilization itself is attracting these creatures? Yes. And when they come, Ambassador, they will feed on every thinking mind in the galaxy. Not just your people or mine, but every species, every individual capable of consciousness.
The galaxy will become a tomb of empty bodies and shattered minds. The holographic display showed projections, mathematical models that Kelrin's mind could follow despite his mounting horror. The data was undeniable. At the current rate of galactic expansion and interconnection, the threshold would be reached within 3 to 5 centuries. So, humanity chose isolation, she continued. We withdrew from galactic affairs not because we feared other species, but because we refused to contribute to the beacon that is drawing death toward all of us. We have spent 400 years studying the void echoes, learning their patterns, developing technologies that might allow us to fight them when they finally come. And they will come, Ambassador. It is no longer a question of if, but when. Kelrin's mind reeled. The expeditions that crossed into your territory, what happened to them? We turned them back, she simply said. We could not allow them to discover this truth and spread it. Panic would serve